We are 3-0. Let's
Yeah.
go. Oh, welcome to Happy Hour, everyone. I am Perry Goldstein, and you are joined, as always, by Maggie Loney, who is in her new pimped out Packers basement
Absolutely.
for this Monday night. Sort of Monday night. It's 4 p.m. where I am right now, but we are going to talk about the Saints game because that was phenomenal. I'm still like riding that Victory Monday high, as I'm sure you are as well. So, Maggie, initial thoughts, reactions.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you and I had talked a little bit about this last week and a little bit unpacks what she said about how we thought that it would be like a high scoring game, but maybe not to the extent that we had seen the first couple weeks. We were like, oh, I don't know about 40, like 28, 30. That seems pretty good. And they were one Mason Crosby field goal away now from another 40 burger. So
I know.
Aaron Rodgers, had said like, I think he praised Matt LaFleur like 17 times, give or take, in his post-game presser and just said, like, we were in a flow, we were in a rhythm. I really loved everything about the play calling. Each week there's a new guy that steps up for us. And he was like, this offense is rolling. Yeah. And they absolutely are.
They are. I think I tweeted it out today. Like, we can hit him with a different person every week. If it's not Devontae, then it's Aaron Jones. If it's not Aaron Jones, it's Allen Lazard. We got to get Allen Lazard to finally make it into the end zone on those big catches.
I know. He's got like lead feet where he just saw that momentum.
But he's Mr. Clutch. I think we've been saying that for a couple of weeks now, where he's so clutch on third down. And then, MVS was apparently getting, as he called it, the Devontae Adams coverage.
The 1-7 coverage.
Yeah, the 1-7 coverage from the defenders. So, like, that's, I think, why we saw a little less of him. But again, like, there's always someone who comes up instead. And this week it was the Allen Lazard show.
Jay Sternberger looked good in his limited opportunities.
All three of our tight ends had catches. Two of them had touchdowns. I think Bob had, Mercedes Lewis and Bob.
That big dog touchdown was so athletic. Like I think sometimes we forget that Mercedes Lewis is like 92 years old and still playing at that high of a level.
He's on his 16th season, just like Aaron Rodgers is. I think it's funny that people thought that was OPI when, like, you forget that Mercedes Lewis is like 6'8". Like, he was just like putting his large arms up. I think there was
he can't help it.
He can't help it. He's just really big. Yeah. But I think I saw something interesting today that I loved, which is that Allen Lazard has a perfect passer rating when targeted by Aaron Rodgers. Like, that is and no wonder Aaron said, like, I have so much trust in him. And it's because, well, he catches the ball when Aaron throws it his way.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting, like, if you look at the way that the Saints defense played the wide receivers without Adams, MVS said they gave him the 1-7 coverage, and I think it's because they were so concerned that his speed was going to burn them deep that they let go of the possession receiver. Like, MVS at least has a little bit of a history with drops, so you could see them being like, okay, get him in man, and you might be okay if you can break up those targets, but Lazard has like perfect hands when it comes to, possession balls, and a lot of those deep catches, he's diving, and, that's why Robin in the chat said the turf monster always gets him. And it's because they're not easy catches, but he lays out for them. And I just,
he's also a big dude, and speed is not, necessarily his strength. That's not what he's going to be known for. So it's fair to say that, maybe he'll stumble a little bit, but I really want him to get there. Like, I thought that 72-yarder would be it. And then, but I do want to talk a little bit about just like, I'm seeing now 3 weeks, like this marriage between like what Aaron Rodgers is so good at and what Matt LaFleur is bringing to the table is just working so well. Like, there's two things, right? There's Aaron Rodgers' like arm and accuracy, which is still phenomenal. And Matt LaFleur wanting to like utilize, the big explosive play that obviously Aaron can still make. We saw that with that gorgeous throw to Lazard, but there was also like more underratedly, I think that final drive, final touchdown drive of Aaron Rodgers is a vet who knows how to work the play clock. He knows how to work the game clock, like game manager, which usually has a negative connotation to it. But I think in this instance, he utilized those skills. He utilized his cadence. We keep seeing that every week. And then Matt LaFleur was calling the right plays to keep us moving forward and just completely draining the clock. So there was no chance that the Saints would ever get the ball back. And I know they tried for that onside kick, but like, let's be honest, like there were 34 seconds left in the game. Like, even if they got it, I don't know. It didn't matter. They kicked it out of bounds. But I just think that it's working.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It's just working. And, it's like Aaron Rodgers says, they're finding different ways to win on offense. And, whether it's a bootleg and then you have, as he calls him, Bobby Tonyan open in the end zone. We saw something really similar with Allen Lazard's first touchdown. Like, it's just the idea. We talk about it all the time. You say it's my favorite phrase, the idea of being multiple in this offense. And
it is your favorite
whatever
phrase.
Type of personnel is out there, mixing those guys up where, okay, if Tonyan is in motion, 1 week he's blocking, another week he's going out on, a wheel route or so. Like, it's just this idea that whoever is out there, all of these guys can perform all of the same roles. Jamal Williams when he's out there. So that's what I think is making this offense so interesting. And Aaron Rodgers had said, like, really talented offense in 2011, really talented offense in 2014. Yeah. This team is just different. And it's not that they're not talented. They're just finding ways to be successful in different ways from those previously really explosive offenses.
And it's making it really hard for defenses to plan for them, because what do you do when you have a star wide receiver, a star running back, a absolutely clutch wide receiver 2, an explosive wide receiver 3 in MVS, a very reliable running back in Jamal Williams who can do many things. Both of our running backs now, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, are now both phenomenal in pass pro. It's just like, how do you plan for that? And then you have Aaron Rodgers to deal with. And now, like, I feel like this no fan situation is just like heightening all of what Rodgers is good at, which is just like the offsides and the play clock. It's just, I don't know how you beat them this year.
Well, he talked too about how, like, we knew this was going to happen going into the season without fans, but he said that he's one of those guys that has like a rhythmic cadence. And when you're that kind of quarterback, you can exploit that because defenses are afraid to jump, but they're also unable to like get pressure because they can't manipulate the snap count or what they expect to hear. So the Packers really got lucky with the Vikings that now had the horn yesterday, even though it didn't help them. They're still 0-3. Sorry about it. And the Saints, like, two of the most explosive places to play and loudest places to play. So I had something on Twitter as a joke about how, this might be the year that Aaron Rodgers gets an NFC Championship game at home. And hopefully at that point, there would be able to be some fans in the stands. But that would just kind of be, I think, peak 2020 for Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers would be benefiting
and they're
from.
So happy, like they're enjoying themselves, which is, I didn't know you posted this kind of like, just like, oh, like this is cute. But like that video of them celebrating, like when was the last time you saw Aaron Rodgers join a touchdown celebration?
Right.
I mean, it's phenomenal. And now, the Packers are now averaging 40.7 points a game. So it's insane. I've never seen anything like it. And as amazing as the offense is, I think we need to talk about the defense a little bit.
Should we talk about the defense?
I don't want to, but should we start with like the bright spots of the defense?
You mean Zadarius Smith?
Yeah. I mean, okay. Well, first of all, I feel like there's been a play every game so far this season on the defense that has really like shifted the momentum in our favor. Week 1, it was the safety by Jair. Week 2 was the pick 6 from Chandon Sullivan. This week, it was Zadarius, as we predicted, but it was even better than what we predicted. We thought he would just have a bunch of sacks. Oh, no. No. He went in there and stripped Drew Brees, forced a fumble, then recovered his own fumble.
Stripped Taysom Hill. That's what made it even better in the lore of.
I can't believe I messed that up. I gave him too much credit. He stripped Taysom Hill, which, okay, can we just talk about that for a second? Like, Sean Payton has a no question first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. and it's tied 27-27 in the fourth quarter, and you decide to take him out and put in Taysom Hill? Like, what are you doing? Like, are you dumb? I'm serious. Like, what was going through his head that he thought that would work? Like, why would you ever take the ball out of Drew Brees' hands when the game is tied against like a very formidable NFC opponent? Like, if they had been winning 40-10, then like, sure, get cute, try some stuff out. But like, it was tied in the fourth quarter.
Well, and especially because the dink and dunk was working. Like, we had talked about that a little bit last week. And, you know, Drew Brees, his arm, whatever is left of it, I mean, he's not playing the deep ball. He just hasn't been this season. So Alvin Kamara had like 2 50-yard passes or like pass plays that should not have gone for that. It was poor tackling by the defense, but that kind of stuff was gashing the Packers all night. So to shy away from that when you have the ball and have a chance to take the lead. Yeah.
I just don't like, when I was watching us try to take Alvin Kamara down, I was getting like PTSD of like Dom Capers times, like the end of Dom, like when we just literally couldn't do anything like fundamental. Like, that's what it looked like to me. It was scary.
Well, and the problem is, I don't think that Kenny Clark fixes that. Like, yes, he immediately will improve your defense, but one Kenny Clark cannot like turn this whole thing around. There's got to be a point where, you know, depending on they'll be able to set the edge better. They'll be able to generate interior pressure better. But
I think there's a few things. I think there's that maybe Kenny doesn't miss that first tackle, and maybe Kenny allows our pass rush to actually get to Drew Brees, you know, in a way that you and I have talked about many times, where like he's such a important cog in that front seven. So I think there is, but you're right. Like, it's Kenny Clark coming back is not going to fix the Packers secondary inability to tackle guys in the open field. Like, he can't do anything about that. And honestly, I know people are hating on Pettin, but like, neither can he. Like, his guys can't tackle. It's not his fault.
Yeah. And I mean, on the plus side, we got to see like the Kingsley Kiki breakout game where he had his first 2 career sacks, and you and I had talked about how it was the Zadarius Smith multi-sack game. Turns out it's the Kingsley Kiki multi-sack game. Oren Burks looked really good coming in for Christian Kirksey. So I mean, yes, there's a lot still for this defense to work on, but you have the Falcons next week, and then you have a bye week. So theoretically, you have plenty of time to still kind of clean these things up before what probably honestly is the most daunting stretch with, well, I don't know if the 49ers can be considered daunting anymore. I guess yes, because they beat the Packers twice, but you know, the Vikings again, the Buccaneers, the Texans, like that's a really solid lineup. So if the Packers can get some momentum going into that, and what better team to clean up your defense against than the Falcons who
Yeah. I think that like no matter what happens on Monday night, we're going into the bye week 3-1, and we're heading into a, like you said, a very difficult stretch with a good record. Those teams don't scare me as much as they did when the schedule came out. Like, the Texans are 0-3.
Yep.
You know, Tampa Bay looks fine. I think that'll be a fun game, but I just find us, even though we have some issues to clean up on defense, I still find us very hard to beat. Oh my God, Peter Bukowski's here. What's up? What? Apparently the wind is quite loud. I'm sorry. I can go inside if people are really bothered by it. I do want to talk about something that I do want Pettin to clean up, which is like, what kind of coverage were you working with yesterday? I just have a problem with his game planning, because we knew that Brees was going to dink and dunk us. So why are you playing to stop the big play when Drew Brees isn't going to give you the big play?
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. Like, why do they have like 5 to 10 yards just of like open space in between? Like,
it was really soft coverage, and Michael Thomas is their deep threat speed guy. So when he's not in the game, you know, you'd think that you'd be scheming specifically for kind of that soft 10-yard range. And it's like you said, I don't know where the safeties were half the time. It seemed like they were making plays when the play was over. And one, I think it was the Alvin Kamara second touchdown where he broke for like 50 yards. And I think Dean Lowry was the guy that made the tackle in the end zone. And it's like, how are you?
Why did you get back there?
All the way here?
Yeah. I know it's of all of the position groups that I thought would be an issue this season, our safeties were not who I would have chosen. It's concerning, especially because they just look like two completely different players than last year.
Yeah, and here we were thinking that with the consistency with Jair and Kevin King, and you finally had like this cohesive four, and the Packers hadn't had cohesion in the secondary for a really long time, and they kind of had musical chairs at safety, and finally you have Amos and Savage, and the way they produced last season, there was a lot to build off of. So this really like slow start for that tandem is honestly shocking, and I don't know what it's going to take for them to get the juice back, but it's not like they were going up against some insane receiver tandems these first couple weeks. I think the biggest test is honestly going to be the Bucs when they have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and I don't know, Gronk and OJ Howard and whoever else.
I mean, potentially next week, right? I mean, and depending on if Julio Jones can go, but I mean, Calvin Ridley is, I think on another team would be a wide receiver one. Yeah. So, and the Matt Ryan always passes on us quite well. So but I would say, okay, so our bright spots on defense, right, are Kingsley Keke. Mm-hmm. I thought that our inside linebackers, when Christian Kirksey went out, did okay. Yeah. We saw Aaron Burks, punch a ball out. That was a really nice play. Ty Summers put the helmet on, and I thought he did fine for someone who wasn't even planning on being in that role. Yeah. And then Jair Alexander is still putting together an all-pro season. He's completely shut down. I think they had like -2 yards when targeting him.
Yeah, I agree with you that the inside linebackers kind of made the difference. I want to ask you this before we switch. Okay. Now going into 3 games and seeing the big plays coming from even Kingsley Keke this week. Zadarius had a big one. Do you have any concerns about Preston Smith, or do you think he's just not being utilized effectively in the Mike Patton game plan? Because as Peter said in the chat, the Mike Patton game plan kind of is like one of these, right?
No, I'm not concerned about Preston. Like we saw what he can be. I think he's not being utilized correctly. I think Kenny being out is like really affecting our pass rush. And I don't know if that's just like a cop out for me to be like, oh, it'll just be better when he comes back. But like genuinely, I think that Kenny creating interior pressure and taking some of those double teams away allows Preston and Zadarius to get to the quarterback. And I hate that Preston is dropping into coverage so much. Like, I just don't understand. He's so big. He can't do that. Like,
well, and the thing with,
so I guess to answer your question, it's a combination.
Well, and the thing with a guy like Preston is have him rush and then stick his hands up. Like, batted balls are where a really tall player like Preston makes his impact. Dean Lowry is great at that. Like, if you can't get to the quarterback, just put your arm up and your tree trunk will swat it down. Like, don't drop into coverage. But I think to your point, like, we saw what this edge rush and this pass rush could look like last season when we had a healthy Kenny Clark, who is Mr. December, and Zadarius and Preston. And now with Rashawn Gary coming on, there should be like this next step. But Kenny not being there, now you have Z as your kind of roaming nose, and everything just looks different. And hopefully when he comes back, that pressure is now able to kind of pick up where we thought it had left off in 2019, because it was there. And I don't think that Z and Preston, as 2 of the NFL's top 100 players, are guys that are like regressing. I don't think that's who they are. No. I think it's just they're trying to play outside of their role and wearing too many hats, I think, right now for this defense.
I completely agree. So I guess I gave my bright spots, which were Kingsley and Jair. Who were yours?
Okay, mostly because I want to break this out, right? But my bright spot is Aaron Charles Rodgers, and it's just he's so happy, and it makes me happy. And how you said it earlier in the show, like we're not used to seeing an Aaron Rodgers that gets in on celebrations. And I just tweeted that his entire post-game presser, I just rewatched it. He's smiling the whole time, and he's talking about how comfortable he is in the offense and how this team is special. And he called them a family, and he said, like, we're all super tight-knit here, and we root for each other. Like, and because Perri and I are up in our game here on Happy Hour.
We can preface this by saying we are now tracking quite closely. I know all people are, but we're tracking quite closely Aaron Rodgers' passing yards because Aaron Rodgers is on pace for about 4,800 yards this season, which would not only break his personal record, but it would put him at number 10 in the all-time passer, leader list of all time. And that's a big deal because he'd be jumping two greats. So, but he is going to reach 50,000 no matter what happens this year. And so we are going to track that here at Happy Hour. And we're doing so by this. So he is now at 47,833 career passing yards.
Yeah. And because Zadarius Smith, his lovely candle doesn't really fit on my desk anymore, we also have rolled out the Zadarius Smith sack counter, which does still sit at 2, but we didn't have time to make a forced fumble category, or he would have 2 and 1. So you gotta work with us with what we got here. It's been a busy weekend, but
we were expecting sacks, not the forced fumble, which I'll never take it back, but like it's okay. Okay, so your bright spots were Aaron Rodgers, and I'm assuming Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Allen Lazard gets a lot of credit. I would say Jay Sternberger being able to kind of progress would be a bright spot. Like, Aaron Rodgers had kind of said, like, this is when he had like the family talk, he was like, this is what we do. Like, we're not going to be down on him. And if one of your guys loses confidence, you don't pile on. Like, your goal is to help him gain his confidence. So the fact that he put together a couple nice drives with this offense, it's more kind of power to him going forward that he can play a role. So bright spot there. I think the entire offense, honestly, was a bright spot. If I'm honest.
Yeah. Someone wants to know, Aaron, what beer you're drinking?
It is, Aaron. You inspired me to get it.
That's amazing. What a great name.
Fat Pug.
Okay. So unfortunately there were some injuries, which we don't love. We've been somewhat lucky in that we are going to get Kenny and Devontae back eventually, but Christian Kirksey went out. We think it's going to be something that's going to be pretty significant. Maybe a couple of weeks with a shoulder injury. Maybe after the bye. And it looked like Rashawn went out with an ankle, but he came back, and then so I don't know how serious. Hopefully that's not as serious.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if the Packers will plan on keeping Kenny and Devontae out, knowing that they have one more game until the bye, and you can give them, a much longer period of rest. But it sounded like, by all accounts, Devontae Adams would be able, or could have been able, to play going into Sunday night's game, and they kind of just left him off for a week.
Why am I so dark right now?
And then Kenny, has kind of a limited participant in practice. So yeah, just those kinds of things, like really good progress and things to kind of build on and look forward to going into next week.
Yeah, I think it's pretty phenomenal that we just beat the Saints without like two of arguably our best players, period, on the team. Like, and the Saints looked good. You know what I mean? Like they're still going to be a pretty formidable NFC opponent for anybody else that comes through. I think their 1-2 record doesn't necessarily reflect the talent they have. Their offense has a harder time rolling without Michael Thomas than ours does without Devontae Adams.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising because I think we talked about this, that it felt like their offense was going to funnel through Alvin Kamara. So,
it did.
Well, it did, but Emmanuel Sanders had his, like, we said, like, this is going to be the game that, he makes his debut as a Saint and lights it up, and he did get his touchdown with them. But yeah, I do agree with you that it seemed like Michael Thomas was at least missing for Drew Brees and kind of the cohesion of the offense.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We didn't get that many questions tonight. Are people just like really happy with the performance? I mean, I am. We won 37-30. My prediction was 31-30. We ended up going higher than that, which I definitely we weren't expecting. We were like, oh, if they get more, great.
Yeah, I think they were like 4 out of 5 conversions in the red zone too. So all those things we talked about with, stacking successes on offense. It's a good time.
Yeah. We are looking at the chat, but we don't see any questions, whoever just commented that. So if you have your questions, we have about 5 minutes left before we wrap this up. I guess we can look ahead, to the Falcons. Oh, here we go. Oh, you go ahead.
Biggest surprise, I don't know. I think would honestly be the scores, and just like we talked about, this offense still being kind of a work in progress, and expecting to see more consistency and better game planning going into year 2 of Matt LaFleur's scheme. But the fact that it's been significant point totals, even, despite a safety and a pick 6 contributing to some of that, putting up almost 40 points each week, has been a pleasant surprise. And I think honestly the disappointment is still that run defense, because it's still a question mark, and the Packers didn't do anything glaring to fix that in the offseason. And we were like, okay, they must really buy into the guys that they have in-house. That has to mean something. And if Kingsley is going to play like this every week, it means something for their pass rush, but it still is kind of dangerous for this run defense.
Yeah. I mean, I think you pretty much stole mine. It's that our offense is I mean, are you surprised that we agree? I mean, I think our offense is rolling, and we kind of said, it's going to be better in year 2 with Matt LaFleur naturally, but nobody, I don't think I ever expected like it to look the way it does. And then, yeah, I mean, it's just what's disappointing to me more is that I feel like we really do have the personnel to have a really good defense, and it just feels like there's like something's not clicking, and it's frustrating to watch. When do you think we'll get Kamal Martin back? Well, he has to be out for 3 weeks, which we've reached, but he did have surgery. They said 6 weeks would be the minimum time. So I imagine maybe for the Bucs game, but maybe more for like the Texans or later.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be at least 6 to 8 weeks. It seemed like, he could maybe bounce back a little bit early, but not something that you'd want to risk, especially if Chris Barnes and Ty Summers and Oren Burks are all playing well in Kirksey's absence. I don't think that they'll by any stretch try to rush him back from that. Hi, Sanjay.
Hi, Sanjay. Thanks for your question. We did talk about Preston Smith a little bit. We think he's not being utilized properly. So it's not his fault that he's being asked to drop into coverage against like tiny, shifty running backs.
Yeah, and make sure that you check out the Freezer podcast tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time to see Sanjay eat a really spicy chip because he thought that the Saints were going to win. And when you bet against the Packers on the Freezer, apparently they dare you to do things. So Sanjay's, you're going to want to tune into that because Sanjay already shaved his head. So
I'm going to let you answer this one.
I mean, I just think it's early. I think it's one of those like too many cooks almost, where you just have so many players to spread the ball around that, if it's a pass pro situation, which I think it was for most of the game, like we saw Demario Davis get that sack that Rodgers kind of said was like his own fault, and maybe he shouldn't have held the ball or tried to spin out of it and just kind of throw it away. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's just a matter of trying to spread the ball around. And if AJ Dillon is even questionable in pass pro right now, you're going to have a guy like Jamal or Aaron in there where you can trust them. Because Rodgers said this is the first season in a while that he's really trusted the guys back there to block for him.
And you need someone like that against like Cam Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is a really interesting question from Katie. Why, we've talked about this, that this big play has been like the momentum shift. I don't know. I'm definitely seeing it too. I don't have an answer, but it does feel this way. I mean, we have been a little bit of a bend don't break defense since last season, even, and these kind of big plays, big sacks, etc., are what changed the momentum of the game. This might just be who we are.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there is kind of this element of not having fans in the stands, and the guys keep talking about bringing your own juice. And last week against the Lions, Shannon Sullivan said that their defense was kind of flat and they got a little bit chewed out in the locker room, and they were like, this isn't who we are. This isn't representative of what we want to be. We need to bring it in the second half. And then he had his pick six. So I think that, yeah, those big plays, like Rashawn Gary, he said the Aaron Jones 75-yard touchdown, the defense was like, okay, great, we got to get them the ball again because they're rolling. So I think that the teams do have to kind of create their own momentum. And if it's a team like the Saints where Alvin Kamara has like a 45-yard touchdown, that takes the wind out of your sails, especially away when there aren't fans to kind of cheer you on and root for you. So as much as the guys are creating their own energy and creating their own juice, I do think that those big plays really kind of have an extra effect this season because the fans aren't involved to kind of help.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that our defense especially really, really feeds off the fan energy. Like, you can just tell how much they connect with that. And they're always like out there, kind of trying to get everyone riled up, and maybe missing that is part of it.
Yeah, I agree totally.
All right, we're going to take a couple more here. Is there a reason Will Redmond was on the field instead of Raven Green? Well, I think there's probably two reasons. I think one being that Raven Green's been nursing a little bit of an injury. So Will Redmond's been taking his snaps. And before last night, he was doing a great job. So it'll be interesting to see when, one, Raven Green is healthy again, and two, what they decide to do after this most recent performance. And that's not to say it was only Will Redmond. It was many players.
Yeah, and it's weird because we talked about like going into the 2020 season and feeling like the safety unit was going to be the most, or have potentially the most depth, even in the secondary, when you have like Josh Jackson and Kadar Holman and those kind of players behind your starters. So to think all of a sudden now that like Will Redmond and Raven Green and, we saw a little bit of Vernon Scott, but not enough, I think, to make a judgment yet on that. It's interesting to see the players that we thought would make these leaps not make the leaps, especially like we alluded to earlier, against some of the caliber receivers that they've been playing against.
Yeah, but then there are the players that are surprising us. So I think it always happens that way. I originally said 11-5 before the season started in terms of what our record is going to be. I don't know. We could go 12-4 now.
I had said 11-5 with losses to the Vikings and Saints. So I'm going to say 13-3.
We're going to go 13-3 again. Yeah. I love it. It's certainly possible that the Packers can put up 50 points this season. I mean, without like two of the drops in week one, we would have. So it's very much in reach, which is mind-blowing to me.
I hope it happens against the Bears. The fraudulent 3-0 team.
Yeah. We have a supportive husband listening on his drive home from work. All right, Maggie, let's see if there's any more in here. Are we on next Monday before the game? That's a really good question.
We are.
Can confirm. Yeah.
We're your pregame show next week. Come party.
So it'll be a little different. We'll be chatting about what we think is going to come. But if you want to hear about how we think the game went, you can listen to us at Pax What She Said, because that's where we'll probably break it down. Or both of us are on Pack-A-Day podcast, which you can also hear all of our game day breakdowns and thoughts. That was a really nice little segue.
You nailed it.
I nailed it. Thank you. I'm getting good at this. Vacation is great, which is why our show is going to be wrapping up now. We really appreciate everyone coming out, asking questions, listening to us break down what a phenomenal win that really was, just like in general, just such a great game. Really, really, big test, I think, for the Packers that showed us both some areas we need to work on and some areas that we are clearly good at, clearly a dominant force. It's really fun to actually hear people around the NFL talking about the Packers in a nice, light. So if you want to follow us both, find all our work, you can follow me at Perri_Goldstein. You can follow Maggie on Twitter at Maggie J. Loney. That's the best place to find us because we're all over the place at this point, and I'm not going to list it out anymore because it will literally take 5 minutes. But we really had fun today. We had fun watching the game, and as Maggie said earlier, we will be your pregame for Game On Wisconsin next week. So follow Game On for all the other content that everyone produces, and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.